bargained with them or even asked for their support. So in that sense, he hasn't offered them anything and doesn't have to move to the left. But because of the political spectrum as it is at the moment, it's dragging him a bit to the left.
All right, an op-ed piece that was written by a physicist, his name is Serge Galem, is making a lot of noise in this country. He's a guy who's big on statistics. He correctly predicted Brexit. He's part of what they call the Sevipov Political Research Institute. He's worried about turnout. He said, for example, Marine Le Pen could poll at 41% of votes on the eve of the election and wake up with 50.3% of ballots cast. It would not be the fault of pollsters or of a multi-tiered system like in the US, but more mundanely because of the skewed role of the abstention rate. He adds, after having gone from impossible to improbable, the election of Le Pen as president of the Republic in 2017 is now sliding from the improbable to the very possible. And one of the things that's making people fret as we get closer to Election Day, Christopher Dickey, is that the second round takes place in the middle of a long weekend.
Well, that's a killer right there. I hadn't even thought of that, but yes, that certainly is going to be a problem. Abstention is going to be a problem, but it's also, in this respect, there's a lot of things that are not like the American elections, but Le Pen's base is very enthusiastic about her, whereas the bases for the other candidates, they're not terribly enthusiastic. Fillon's base is not terribly enthusiastic. Macron's base, sort of enthusiastic. And on the left, we know everything's divided. So I think that if it comes down to Macron and Le Pen, yes, abstention will be a big problem, but the other issue is going to be the debate. I think this is an election that will essentially be decided by the debates.
The debate between the two rounds of the election, or because
both debates. I think that the first.
There's one more debate coming up. We've already had one.
Yes, there's one more, and it'll come up, and
there are two more before the first round and one between the two rounds.
Right.
Yeah. But the abstention is very interesting because usually, I mean, in the past 20 years, presidential elections have had very high turnout, like 80%, contrary to the other local elections, which have increasing.
Because the French understand that's the race that matters the most.
And at this stage, about 30% of people are threatening not to vote, which would go into that expert's prediction that a lower participation makes, obviously, Marine Le Pen go up. But my feeling, I might be wrong, and maybe it's wishful thinking, but I think that before the second round, if there's any chance that Marine Le Pen could win, a lot of people will review their stand of not going to vote. A lot of people are now saying, and I know many of them, we did that in 2002 when Marine Le Pen's father, Jean-Marie Le Pen, was on the second round. Everybody went to vote for Jacques Chirac, 80%. And nothing happened afterwards because Chirac didn't use that consensus to reform really things. And a lot of people are saying never again. And my feeling is that if by not voting they give a chance to Marine Le Pen to win, a lot of people who are still opposed to her more than anything else will think twice and will, in the end, go to vote.
God willing.
And I think Europe will be a big factor, her stance on Europe, as well as everything else. I think there will be many people who will be very fearful of that.
Well, I wonder whether the Russian element will come in here, too, because she really does. I mean, what's the biggest endorsement that Marine Le Pen has gotten?
Vladimir
Putin.
Yes.
I mean, how does that look for a nationalist? Somehow they're able to square this, but just as someone who's coming in a little bit from the outside, it seems very strange for Marine Le Pen to want to go and get the endorsement of the leader of Russia.
But François Fillon is very ambiguous and very complacent on
oh, and Mélenchon
Putin
too. No, I know.
And so for a voter of the traditional right, Putin is not such a big deal.
All right, before we go, I just want to tell you it was the week that South Africa paid a fond farewell to one of Nelson Mandela's closest comrade in arms, Ahmed Kathradi, who was sentenced alongside Mandela at the 1964 Rivonia trial and who would spend more than a quarter century behind bars. He was one of the wise elders of the anti-apartheid movement at 87 when he passed away. His funeral, though, became something of a political event unto its own, with the president asked to stay away amid a swell of rumors that Jacob Zuma was about to sack the respected finance minister, Pravin Gordhan, and replace him with a Zuma loyalist. in what the South African press describes now as a night of long knives. That sacking did happen, part of a cabinet reshuffle that's got the currency tanking and Zuma braving new challenges to his rule.
I've decided to make changes to the national executive in order to improve efficiency and effectiveness.
We don't need anybody's brown bag. And we hope that more and more South Africans will make it absolutely clear that our country is not for sale.
Our country's not for sale. We don't need any more brown bags. Pierre Haski, how do you contrast when this week was supposed to be about Ahmed Kathrada, and instead it's about this incredible blow up inside the ANC?
And it's about Zuma's presidency, whether it will be in a position to continue. You know, he has his vice president, Cyril Ramaphosa, and some of the top ANC leaders who have come out, including the parliamentary group chief, who have come out against the reshuffle and the sacking of the finance minister. The financial situation of the country is going down. And so there's an open political crisis, which has in the background the succession to Jacob Zuma. Zuma would like to privilege his former wife, Mrs. Dlamini Zuma, who was the head of the African Union, and against Cyril Ramaphosa, his vice president, who is the man who was the negotiator for the South African constitution at the time of the transition when Mandela was released. So you have this very complicated situation. But at the center of it, you have a corruption case, which is huge, which is blatant, and even the ANC cannot accept it and close its eyes, even if it's threatened now with splitting and losing power. So you have this explosive situation, which we should be watching very closely, because it might also come out in the streets.
Right, the ANC possibly losing power, you say. That's something we'll talk about in future editions. It'd be something that would have been unthinkable in the past. I want to thank Pierre Haski. I want to thank Sarah Morris, Angela Diffley, and Christopher Dickey. It is time now for Media Watch. And we say hello to Emma James.
Hi there.
You begin with the United States.
I will do. I just need to get rid of the blue screen of death from the computer, which is always a bit of a problem. There we go.
Okay.
Yes, General Mike Flynn has his words coming back to haunt him today. This was, of course, the man who barely got his feet under the desk as the National Security Advisor before he was fired. And he's back in the spotlight now. Then, of course...
Because he's asking for immunity.
Exactly. And apparently isn't going to get it, or at least not at the moment. BuzzFeed has put it rather nicely on their homepage, person of Flinterest. They want the federal investigation into Russia's supposed meddling in the the election in the United States wants to speak to Michael Flynn, but he wants immunity before he will do so. This Twitter user coming up with another nice pun. Is he trying to avoid self-Flynn-crimination?
Oh, dear.
But, of course, the thing that's coming back to haunt him are his own words from September last year, when he talked about... it was quite strange, really. He went on the NBC's Meet the Press programme last September, was asked a question that had no relation whatsoever to Hillary Clinton and her aides and the email controversy. But this is the answer that he gave. Take a listen.
The very last thing that John Podesta just said is no individual too big to jail. That should include people like Hillary Clinton. I mean, 5 people around her have been given immunity, to include her former chief of staff. When you are given immunity, that means that you've probably committed a crime.
So there you go. When you are given immunity, that means that you've probably committed a crime. It is an unfortunate thing for him to have said, given everything that's come up now. Donald Trump, though, has come to his defence, saying this: Mike Flynn should ask for immunity, in that this is a witch hunt, excuse for big election loss by media and Democrats of historic proportion. I'm not even going to begin to go into the inaccuracies in that tweet. But basically, he is riding to the defence of Mike Flynn. But he himself, obviously, has said very much the opposite out on the campaign trail, repeatedly questioning why Hillary Clinton's aides needed immunity. And back in September, 2 days after that interview from Mike Flynn, he was on the road in Florida and he said, if you're not guilty of a crime, what do you need immunity for? Almost exactly the same sentiments. Flynn's lawyer has released a statement today, and it makes quite remarkable reading. I think he must be enjoying his moment in the spotlight. He begins it with this line: General Flynn certainly has a story to tell, and he very much wants to tell it should the circumstances permit. That is the line, of course, that has been picked up by The Atlantic in their piece, and it's a very good recap, really, on the whole General Flynn affair, what he's done, what he's accused of. And they point out that although a request for immunity isn't an admission of guilt or wrongdoing, they say one reason why he could be seeking it is he's already been interviewed by the FBI, and there were questions raised when he was sacked. Did he lie to the FBI? Because that predated him being sacked. If that happens, he would be open to prosecution. So a lot of people wondering that. Fans of Hillary Clinton and Democrats in general having a bit of fun online today with things like this. Flynn said on the campaign trail, if I did 1/10 of what Hillary Clinton did, I'd be in jail. And you've got pictures of Clinton and Obama having a good chuckle about it. Lots of things like that. And again, another one of his famous campaign trail shouts, lock her up. And you've got Hillary Clinton having a good chuckle.
All right. Tomorrow's a big day for fake news, I believe.
Well, yes, but it started early, and some people really aren't too happy about it.
It's April Fool's Day.
It's April Fool's Day, or something to do with fish in this country. I've never quite understood it. But Mashable says it's April Fool's Day, not week, and this madness needs to stop, because lots and lots of companies...
What's, like they're going early for April Fool's Day?
Yes, because it falls on a Saturday, and they say that businesses want to get in their brand-focused exposure and prove their corporation is fun. Mashable, not getting into the spirit of things at all. It's dumb, it's wrong, and it's even a little dangerous, they say. Now, just to fill you in, some of the things that have caught the imagination. Lyft, the ride-hailing app, came out with this, saying you wear this whizzy thing on your thumb and that's how you hail a ride from now on. Krispy Kreme donuts actually fooled the Daily Mirror. They wrote an article about how Krispy Kreme is changing its name in the United Kingdom because British people keep calling it Krispy Kreme, giving it the French pronunciation. So it would be changed to cream. Now, of course, it's not true, but the Daily Mirror said there is a chance it could be an April Fool, but it would be terribly unfair for them to do it early. Really not impressed at all.
All right. Well, the creme de la creme of media coverage with James. I want to thank our panel once again. Thank you for joining us here in The World this week.